All right, everybody, welcome into KBO Chats Live. I'm Sam Pasco alongside Eric Halterman, and this is the show where we're talking everything KBO League. We are answering your questions. We are breaking down the standings. You name it, we're doing it. You see, I got the different hat today here, Eric, mixing it up. Normally, I got the little billboard one showing RotoWire, KBO on RotoWire.com, but today I got the NC Dinos hat in honor of Aaron Oltair's home run yesterday, and because I was on the little cardboard cutout behind home plate for the NC Dinos Recall Fans Project. You might remember that little broadcast they had all the little guys behind there. So, no fans in the stadium. So, cardboard Sam, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, very exciting. But people are going to accuse us of pro dinos bias here. So just
Well,
throw out a
when we
couple
take a look at,
random dinos suck or something just to
I mean, if you're going to be a
balance
fan
it
of
out.
any team, they're one of the best. And I think you got to respect that a little bit. We're not playing favorites, but the Dinos, it is a pretty sleek hat. So
Yeah, did you
we'll
see
dive into it
their
here.
light blue uniforms the other day? I don't know if you saw those come
Yeah.
across. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, I got to say,
They've got a good look
overall, the KBO has some very impressive unis. Like as a whole, the Dinos, the Lions. You see those camo unis as well.
with the
I mean,
lion hidden in
yeah,
the. So
the lion
that's
print.
something. Yeah.
It's impressive. It's impressive. So we'll dive into it here. Looking first at the standings, as I mentioned, comments are welcome. Ask us your questions about anything and everything KBO here. So we're first looking at the standings. No power rankings; those will be coming out in a couple of days. But we start with the standings, and I see our Dinos here, first team to 30 wins. How are we feeling about them being the number one team? Because they did drop one against the Wiz, and it was kind of an ugly one.
Yeah, it's weird. Their pitching is now fourth best in the league, at least by runs per game, in large part due to that one blow up, and they had that like 18 run or so blow up against the Heroes last week. So that's a little bit weird, but still just counts as one loss. I think going 2-3 against the Wiz is enough that you believe they're out of that little poor stretch they had recently. I don't know if they're going to keep playing as well as they were at the beginning of the year, but they're more or less back on track, I think.
Yeah, you see that 10 spot in the eighth, not what you want to be giving up, especially if you're looking at this team going all the way, to the championship. Dabber Dan saying hi. Nice. Hey, guys. Yes, we're tuning in. I see people are settling in. This KBO Chats Live. Let us know your comments. We'll shout you out like Dabber Dan here talking about everything KBO. We had an abundance of games yesterday, Eric, with the rainouts and all that. Did you see that impacting any play, even going now to the second series, just from an overall standpoint? Does this just mass number of games change how you look at lineups and players today?
Right. It was a weird week so far. We had a one game day, and then we were supposed to have a 9 game day, but two of those got canceled again. Um, the main impact, I would think, would be that bullpens could be a bit tired, especially teams that had to go to them early. Um, I think the Heroes might have thrown like 9 innings or something in their bullpen combined. A couple of the teams, I didn't look at all of them, but that was one I was looking at earlier. Just you got to figure the bullpen's more tired than normal if so many teams across the league had to play 2 games yesterday. Uh, Not necessarily a huge impact, but there could be at least something there. Not
Yeah,
sure if I would change too many projections by all that much, but it's definitely something.
there's definitely something to look at when you consider the mass number of games we've had, and then also Kia and Lotte not even playing since
Right.
Tuesday. I mean, that's definitely going to be something different that these players are now just experiencing beginning into the summer months when we see more rain happen. We're seeing the Giants. They better score at least a couple of runs tonight. That is hopefully the plan for Lotte, as they have one of the best pitchers in the league on the bump. Talking about Lotte here. How do we feel about them? We just said not playing for a couple of days. Do you think they can bounce back? You think they might be a little rusty?
Yeah, it's an interesting because you'd say their bullpen's probably pretty well rested, but I doubt they'll need it very much tonight with Dan Straley on the mound. He's been pretty much awesome in every single start, even though he has, again, just a single win. He's been the projected starter for 3 straight days now because he's been rained out twice. I don't know exactly how that might impact his preparation, but it's meant that I write him up as the top name on the cheat sheet basically every day. As far as I know, he's not going to get rained out again. Everything looks clear tonight, but they should have a pretty good shot at a win at this one. I mean, there's quite possibly no better pitcher in the league than Dan Straley. I'd still probably say Chang Mo-koo has been better, but he did give up 4 runs in his start last night. So Straley's right up there in the top of the race for best pitcher in the league right now. And the Lions are pretty middle of the pack in offense, so I think he'll be a great play anywhere. I noticed on FanDuel for the second day in a row, he's one of the cheaper options because I think they set their pitcher prices over a day in advance, and they just go with team starting pitcher. So they didn't know it was going to be Dan Straley for the last 2 days. They keep pricing the Lotte starting pitcher as one of the cheapest guys on the slate because they figure it's going to be, I guess, Saewon Park or Adrian Sampson, but it keeps being Dan Straley. So he looks like a very strong play over there on FanDuel.
No, you got to respect what he's done. 2.1 ERA. And when we look at the strikeout numbers, how much do you look at that? Because this is his first double-digit. His last start was his first double-digit strikeout game since the second game in the season. Do you think he has a chance to be the best starter for the rest of the year if Chang Mo-koo does maybe struggle a little bit?
He's absolutely right up there. I love strikeout rate. I think it's probably the stat I look at as much as anything else. From a fantasy perspective, strikeout guys get their strikeouts. So even if Straley has one of those days where every batted ball finds a gap, if he's a strikeout arm, he's still going to get you, 5 or 6 strikeouts, even if he gives up a few runs. And then also, of course, striking out guys correlates a ton with giving up runs because if they never put the ball in play, they're not going to score. So I've been very impressed with how much his strikeout rate has jumped. He was never really a strikeout guy in MLB. So to see him, he's at 28.4%. He's second in the league behind only Chang Mo-koo. I think that's indicative of how dominant he's been this year and how dominant I expect him to continue to be.
Yeah, we're just welcoming everyone in, seeing the comments. Sean, Barry, Dabber Dan, Lightning Picks, everyone tuning in. Hit the comment section. We will get to you. This show is for you, the fans, talking everything KBO. So do not worry. We will get to your comments. We're just talking up some Dan Straley stats here. He gets those Ks. I drew that there, having some fun. A little tool here, drawing some little graphics here. So getting those Ks. Looking now over to the Samsung side. Got a comment here from Barry talking about Samsung. Do you think they could have some trouble scoring some runs? Because for the most part, when we looked at the standings, they were going to mostly be the dark horse team from the bottom half that could make a push late.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely have trouble scoring tonight. They'll face Saewon Park and Adrian Sampson in the next 2 games, who both have ERAs over 6. So I could definitely see them putting up some runs in the next 2. They'll have a tough time tonight. As far as Lotte having trouble scoring tonight, they are facing one of the Lions' better pitchers in Tai-In Wan, but his strikeout and walk numbers are pretty mediocre. I don't think his 3.19 ERA is anywhere close to a fair representation of his abilities. I think he's probably fine. He's only in his second season overall. He's just 20 years old, so I'm sure he's got time to develop into at least a solid starter, but I wouldn't treat him as anything other than a respectable, number 3, number 4 guy at this point. Although the Giants don't put up a ton of runs against anybody, so he's still a fine play tonight.
Yeah, I talked about this in the KBO show earlier today. Just when you look at what the Lions and the Giants have been doing in terms of offense, it's just really not there. 6 in runs per game for the Lions, and it's not much better for Lotte, 8th. So, these are some great tools here on rotowire.com to check out, beyond just the box score, what actually are these teams doing over their, 40 games they've played so far. So moving on, Dabber Dan shouting out Straley again, potentially a guy that could return stateside. I mean, we talked about Straley, but the fans love Straley. How is he enough to overcome this bad offense? Because I'm seeing 3rd best pitching staff, but one of the worst offenses. Is that enough to make Lotte relevant?
I doubt it. I think he'll keep him in the hunt, but he can only make a difference once every 5 games. As far as whether or not he'll get another crack stateside, I would be very surprised if he's not in the big league camp next spring. I don't actually know if his contract's 1 year or longer. He'll probably get a shot next spring. I don't know if he'll necessarily make a team and have a big impact, but if he keeps pitching anywhere near the way he's pitching now, somebody has to give him a shot. I mean, he had several years of being not very good in MLB. So I highly doubt teams are going to think he's suddenly fixed and it's going to be a solid mid-rotation starter at the MLB level, but he's absolutely done enough to at least earn a look.
He's definitely a serviceable guy at the major league level. He's bounced around for multiple teams, A's, Astros, Orioles. You name it, he's basically been on there, Cincinnati, Miami as well. I mean, I actually had a chance to talk to him, and he said he's really looking forward to pitching back in Major League Baseball once his son is old enough to see him. I believe his son now is 2. So he definitely does want to be back there. So maybe a little bit of extra motivation for Straley in these starts to really prove what he can do for Lotte. And like you said, is that going to be enough? Probably not when you look at that. Just one win after what he's been able to do. It is disappointing that Lotte hasn't been a little bit better beyond that. Comments coming in here. Moving on now, continuing from one great pitcher to another, to actually multiple here. Sean shouting out some other great pitchers going tonight. We got one of your favorite guys, one of my favorite guys, Casey Kelly, Warwick Sappold. Well, how do we feel about them so far? They've only been so-so, but you think we could see a quality start from them, or are they not really on that Straley level?
I'm a big fan of Drew Gagnon. I've mentioned him several times. His strikeout and walk numbers are excellent. He is third in strikeout rate, 25.8%. He's walking less than 7% of batters too. He's got all the signs of the kind of player who should be better than his merely good ERA. He does have a tough matchup tonight against the Heroes. The Heroes have been very hot, although it's been more their pitching getting hot than their hitting, though their hitting has been pretty good all year. So he's got a tough matchup, but I think he's got the skills to do it. Kelly has been better than his ERA. Also, a 5 ERA is he's been better than that, but he's been merely good. Both him and Tyler Wilson for the Twins aren't really living up to expectations, so they're not the problem or anything. They're just both pitching like maybe number 3 starters. He's got the Wyverns, though, so that was enough for him to be one of my recommendations tonight alongside Gagnon. There's not many easier tasks right now than facing the Wyverns, so he definitely has a shot at a quality start. Warwick Sappold, if he wasn't facing the Wiz, I'd be more excited about him. He still could get a quality start. I'm generally not a fan of his in fantasy because he strikes out so few guys. And it's hard for him to get a win because he pitches for the Eagles. But a quality start is the kind of thing that he does generally do. He doesn't give up a ton of runs. He's a workhorse. So I could see him going 6 or 7 and giving up 3. But, man, the Wiz have some strong bats in the middle of that order with Baek-Ho Gong and Mel Rojas. Rojas could well be the MVP at this point. He's all over all of the leaderboards. He's been incredibly hot lately. 11 homers in his last 22 games. So I wrote him up as one of my top recommendations tonight, even though he's facing Sappold. So I think I would rank those 3 in the order Sean has it there. I think Gagnon best, even with a tough matchup. I just think he's that good. And then Kelly with a pretty easy matchup and Sappold with a pretty tough one.
Yeah, talking about 3 of the best pitchers here in tonight's KBO slate. Going back to one of your favorite guys, Gagnon, do the walk numbers concern you a little bit? Because recently, looking at these numbers, 4 walks, 2 walks, only 5 Ks. I mean, that doesn't scream, elite level starter. But what's there that you're encouraged by in Gagnon's game?
Yeah, it's fair. The last 3 have been less exciting. I mean, you got 12 strikeouts, 7 walks over the last 3. It's pretty unimpressive. So there's a chance I'm overreacting to his excellent early numbers, but I still like the 8-game sample more than the 3-game sample. I think what he did early is still part of who he is. So until he proves otherwise, I think he's better than his ERA suggests. I think he's one of the best pitchers in the league.
I like that. And Barry here talking about Sappold, going back to him. It's always difficult, at least for me, to pick an Eagles player just after, almost the traumatizing losing streak they were on. How much does, not getting a quality start factor into it? Because when you're on that horrible Eagles team, you're already at a disadvantage, even though he is their ace. What's your perspective on that?
Right, it's a good point here. I mean, he couldn't have asked for much of a better matchup in terms of pitching. Hyunjin So for the Wiz tonight. It's a young 18-year-old who is about as bad as his ERA would suggest. He's striking out just 10.5% of batters. It just doesn't look like he can put anybody away. It's not hard to put away the Eagles, but if the Eagles are to ever have a decent chance to win a game, it'll be a game like tonight when they have Soppold going against So. So I actually did recommend an Eagles hitter on my cheat sheet tonight. I wasn't never happy about that, but I think Taekyun Kim, he's a 38-year-old slugger. It's like 10 or 11 all time in KBO homers. Clearly getting old, not what he once was, but he's a pretty cheap option on both sites. He started the season terribly and was one of those 10 guys that the Eagles sent down. This is Taekyun Kim. But he's come back and been pretty decent in 15 or so games since returning. So if there ever is a time to have an Eagle, it's him and maybe another lefty or two near the top of the order. It's just about the only circumstance in which I could get at all interested in Eagles.
I like that. And going back, the final of the three-headed monster that Sean mentioned, talking about Casey Kelly for the LG Twins. Barry here saying the run support issue. I mean, when you look at a matchup against the Wyverns, the 13-31 record says, okay, Twins, they have a good chance of winning tonight. But when you look at what they've done recently, they've had some strong competition, but they are on the worst losing streak right now in the KBO, 6 games. What do we feel about that? And will he be able to get enough run support to actually come out with the victory?
Yeah, it is a problem. I mean, they were, I think, a game and a half back of the Dinos a week ago today. We knew they'd face some tough series coming up in the Bears and Heroes, but I sure didn't expect them to go 0-6 over that stretch. So it's definitely a problem. I mean, I think they were only 4th best last year, so maybe they were playing above expectations when they were pushing for the top spot earlier in the year. I'm not too worried about the run support tonight specifically because Gunwook Lee for the Wyverns, pretty mediocre. He's got a decent ERA, but has barely pitched. He's also a 25-year-old who had only thrown 2 innings prior to this year. In MLB, you might not think too much of that, given that 25 isn't all that late to debut. But you see so many guys in the KBO debut at as young as 18 and very often at 20, 21. So I think when you see a guy who's 25 and hasn't done anything yet, I think you should assume his reputation is not particularly high. So I am not particularly worried about the Twins' bats in this one, even though they are, to be fair, banged up and losing a couple guys. But with Roberto Ramos and Hyun-Soo Kim hitting in the heart of the order, 2 good lefties against a righty I don't have much faith in Lee. I think the Twins should be able to do enough here. It's been a while since Ramos last homered. He's fallen off the top spot. But he does have a few hits in his last few games, so I think there's no real reason to think he's still significantly impacted by those ankle and back issues that kept him out for a few games. So I think given the matchup, Kelly will have enough. But it is true that the Twins have been really struggling lately.
In case you're just tuning in, this is KBO Chats Live. Sam Pasco, Eric Holterman, talking everything KBO League to get you ready for DFS or whatever you're looking for. Some live baseball news, we got you covered here. Talking some comments. We've talked some Straley. We've talked some Casey Kelly. Did want to mention, though, Barry did mention about the rainout in Kia and Lotte that we saw in the crazy matchups in the first half of this week. Do you know anything about this, Eric, in terms of the precedent for 2 straight rainouts for a series like that? And I think he's mentioned something else about a DH in play as well.
Yeah, multiple doubleheaders in a series. I'm not sure what they're specifically doing. I haven't seen if it's been announced for this one. I do know that KBO traditionally never plays on Monday, and they, I think, rarely do doubleheaders. But given the shortened time frame to get the season in this year, they are now open to playing on Mondays. So I would guess that's what they do. I haven't looked ahead but I would assume next time that they're playing at the Giants. If it's, I guess they'll either stay an extra day into Monday or get there an extra day early and play on Monday. I think that's what they'll do. It might be a little bit before we know for sure, or maybe it's already out there and I haven't paid attention to it.
And speaking of that kind of extra layer now we have with that day, the 2 days off now, what do we think about Kia? They're facing one of the hottest teams in the Keyboom Heroes in the KBO. They have your starter on there, but is the offense enough to maybe win 2 of 3 against the Heroes to finish the week?
Yeah, this is definitely, well, it would be the best series if not for the Dinos and Bears, which I'm sure we'll get to soon. It's another top 5 matchup, Tigers and Heroes. Both teams are on the rise. Definitely advantage Tigers in terms of the pitching in this one. Gagnon, as I said, is one of my favorites in the league. And Young Gun Joe, who does have a very good name, doesn't necessarily have a great stat line this year. He's not really been used as a starter. He's going roughly 3-ish innings in his last couple outings, and he hasn't gotten destroyed. But again, his strikeout and walk numbers are quite bad. I think he's more walks than strikeouts. Yeah, nine walks to go with 7 strikeouts. Young guy, only 21, barely any resume at all. Little reason to believe that he'll be able to shut down many teams in this league. The Tigers don't have a very good lineup. That's the one thing keeping them from the true top tier of the league. But I'd be pretty happy to use Preston Tucker for sure against Young Gun Joe tonight, and Youngwoo Choi, the veteran slugger who hits right next to him in the order. I recommend the Tiger stack as one of my stacks tonight because Joe he's basically a reliever who they give a couple innings to at the start of the game, and he hasn't done much with them. So I think advantage Tigers in this one tonight, but the whole series is going to be quite good. You've got Eric Jokic going Saturday for the Heroes, and Won-Tae Choi, who's a solid second starter, going Sunday. Tigers will have Ki-Young Im on Sunday too, who's having a breakout year. So it's going to be a good one, all 3 games. Good pitching makes Tigers hitters tough to use in the next 2, but I would definitely be interested in using them tonight against Joe.
I like that. Barry, onto something there. Kia has the edge tonight, so potentially a play today. You mentioned Preston Tucker, and before we move on to the finale of our show talking about the Bears Dinos game, but Preston Tucker, we haven't talked about him too much in the past couple of shows. He really started really hot to begin this year, but now maybe it's faded. Some of the big 3 to begin this season in terms of international players in the KBO was Preston Tucker, Jose Miguel Fernandez, and Roberto Ramos. Ramos was hurt, not doing too much. We'll talk about Fernandez in a minute. But is Tucker still a guy that no matter the team, the opponent should be fearing Tucker because he's that good? Is he still an elite level talent in the KBO?
Yeah, absolutely. He seemed to be pretty streaky. He was very hot early. He had like a hitless series right after that and was pretty mediocre for 10 or so games. But then he was right back on again. Obviously, it's been a couple days since he has his last hit, mostly because they haven't played. But he had been in another one of his strong stretches, going from 10 or so games right there. So he's somebody. Anytime he's facing a mediocre or worse righty, I'd be very happy to use Preston Tucker. I think he's definitely a top 10 hitter in the league, maybe even better than that.
Yeah, his last 10 at bats, not too hot there, just 1 hit, but when he gets hot, as proof by our little game log here on rotowire.com. Shouting out Preston Tucker. Moving back towards where are we here? Our daily lineups. Here we are. Get some more comments now. Talking now about our best series of the day. There we go. There we are. The Dinos and the Bears. This one's going to be on ESPN. All 3 of them are going to be on ESPN. How excited are you for this series, Eric? Because these are the 2 best teams right here.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if they're the two best teams. I'm still on the Heroes as number 2, which they actually occupy that spot in the standings now. But regardless, it's uh, last year's champions, the team that's made it 5 straight years to the Korea Series in the Bears versus the best team this year. And it's no worse than 2 of the top 3 teams. So I'm quite excited to see 3 straight games between them. I think we're going to get some offense. It's two best lineups in the league, and the pitching staffs, the Bears, we've kind of talked about for a while. They're not where you'd expect them to be for a team that's had such a good run like they have over the past several years. They're still, I think, 8th. And the Dinos have actually fallen to 4th. They were sitting first in runs scored and runs allowed for a very long time, but it's not quite there anymore. They don't necessarily have the depth you'd want after Koo and Ruchinski and sort of Mike Wright. I think we'll see runs. It'll definitely in the first 2 games. Sunday is going to be Chris Flexen versus Drew Ruchinski, which is going to be an excellent game all around. 2 very good pitchers. I think now that Flexen looks like he's healthy again versus 2 great lineups, I think that's going to be a ton of fun. The first 2, though, I'm expecting runs. Jung-Gi Park going tonight for the Bears is one of those that is just pretty hard to analyze. He's only had 2 starts, and he did look pretty good in them. But again, he's one of those 25-year-old he'd only made 3 appearances before this year. So, maybe it's entirely possible he's a hidden gem. But it seems to be pretty rare in the KBO that guys who are legitimately good don't break through until they're 25. Without a ton of statistical record on him, I'm not sure if he's hiding something. He's been perfectly adequate through his first 2 starts, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, and not a ton of runs. But I definitely wouldn't trust him against the Dinos tonight. But he's the kind of thing where if you want to make a contrarian play, I'm sure not a lot of people will be on him against the Dinos. But given that he has been legitimately good so far, you certainly can't criticize his first 2 starts. Maybe he does it again. Maybe he's figured something out at age 25 and can shut down the best lineup in the league. So I don't hate it, even though I definitely don't trust him. And then for the Dinos tonight, Hockley is mediocre at best. He's got a pretty bad ERA, over 5.5. I think his underlying numbers are a little better than that, but far from good. So I'd be pretty happy to stack Bears bats against him too. Bears, I think their lineup's getting healthy again. They've got Jai-Lo back from a side injury. He played in one of the 2 games last night. And they also have Jaewon Kim, who is suddenly a good hitter again. He started the year incredibly hot, like a 1,300 OPS or something in his first 8 games. Then he's done that again over his last 8 or so, but the stretch in between, he had an OPS of like 5 something. I'm not sure if something was up that we didn't hear about or what, but he was the MVP just 2 years ago. So he's an incredibly talented hitter. And if he's hitting like it again, that's just an even scarier unit than they've been for the past couple of weeks.
That's my little temp there, a little fire emoji there. Not very well. But no, he is hot. When you look at our notes here provided by rotowire.com, of course. Homer, stolen base. I mean, that's the recipe right there for a solid lineup producer on daily fantasy. So I'm liking that. Going back to the starting pitchup matchup, you mentioned Flexen and their other foreign pitcher is Raul Alcantara. Is Park enough to be that third guy? We get a lot of comments about Park, not being horrible, but being actually, pretty good. Lightning picks talking about him here. How confident are you in Park long term outside of just tonight?
Not remotely confident, but he could be. Again, he's made 2 career starts, both this year, both good. But he's a 25-year-old with 2 career starts. It's going to take a long time till I'm approaching confidence. But the Bears, they need somebody to step up. That's a shallow rotation. They've had some injuries and some underperformance. So yeah, he might. Maybe he, figured out his curveball, that kind of thing. It's certainly not unheard of for a guy to emerge out of nowhere in his mid-20s. But confidence definitely wouldn't be the word I'd use just yet. Let's give him a few more. I mean, if he can shut down the Dinos tonight, that's definitely something. But he could just as easily give up 8, given how little of a track record he has.
Especially when you consider the competition in the NC Dinos and their potent offense. continue with the Dinos and their starting pitcher. Barry here talking about Lee struggling. Do you think this maybe gives the Dinos not the edge because he has been struggling, but a little bit more reliability because you don't know what you're getting from Park because he's so young?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Lee was decent last year. I think ERA in the threes, but probably didn't pitch quite that well. Whereas this time his ERA is in the fives, and he's pitching slightly better than that. Um, I'm not sure who I'd give the edge to. If you'd rather have the guy who's looked like a back end starter for a while, or a guy who's looked quite good but has only done it for 2 games, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be high scoring, even despite that pitcher's park. Gemsel Baseball Stadium, where the Bears and Twins play, is the most pitcher-friendly park in the league, but it doesn't seem like any park is as extreme as the most pitcher-friendly and hitter-friendly parks in MLB. So on the whole, that does give a slight edge to the pitchers, but I'd be pretty scared to use either pitcher tonight, just given the lineups they're facing and given their either complete lack of reputation or pretty mediocre reputation.
All right. Sean mentioning here that he's been riding with the Dinos and Doosan in our pick 'em. We're going to have to pick one tonight, Sean, and it's been a good strategy. We've actually talked about all the 5 series tonight, touched upon all of them through your fan questions, or keep them coming, guys. We're doing this for you, talking about some of the great pitchers going tonight, the great matchup in the NC Dinos, the Doosan Bears series. But Eric, tell me your 3 teams that you're most confident in for our World Baseball Pick'em contest. Go on there, enter your 3 best picks. Eric, tell me, who are you most confident in tonight, or even an over-under, as we also have that as well.
Definitely, I think I'd pick Twins first, even though Casey Kelly's been more good than great this year. I still like him a lot more than Gunwook Lee for the Wyverns, and I know the Twins have really struggled lately. Maybe they're just going to stay off, but look at their resume all year versus the Wyverns all year. I think that's the biggest gap out there. I'd like to probably go with Giants number 2, just because Dan Straley's so good. I know they managed to not win a whole lot of his starts, but I think Taiyan Wan for the Lions isn't nearly as good as his ERA suggests. I think that's actually quite a big gap between the 2 pitchers. So I think I'd go Giants number 2. I wouldn't hate the under there. I don't remember exactly what the under is, but I highly doubt. I'm sure it's a low under. That is a low under, but I could totally see this one being a 3-1 kind of game, given that even though I don't love Juan for the Lions, I don't love the Giants lineup either. So I do like the under there. I like Drew Gagnon a lot, as I mentioned, so I think I'd go Tigers as the number 3, though I recognize that the Heroes have been so hot these days that that's probably something of a risk, but I do think Gagnon's good enough that I'd put them as 3rd most likely to win. I would also probably go over for Dinos Bears as another potential option. But it's definitely true. I've been picking either Dinos, often Bears, and then whoever plays the Eagles. So when one of those guys ends up playing the Eagles, or if they end up playing each other, you lose your free square for sure.
Mm-hmm. Barry saying take those Bears tonight, Sean. So we'll see. You liking? I think that's more of a pick 'em tonight because you're facing the Dinos, and you do lose kind of that free square, like you said, when they do play each other. But should make for some great ESPN TV tonight. Barry has his picks here. Arte, Doosan, and Kia. Hey, writing on Gagnon. We're all about the guy Gagnon, Drew Gagnon, liking him.
Means he's going to give up 25 runs. So
yeah.
Speaking
we don't
of which,
need another David Buchanan situation.
Buchanan did it to me again last night. I think I wrote him up and he gave up 8. So,
well, hopefully he won't let you down
tonight.
tonight.
Ignore everything I say on Buchanan for sure, but I don't think Gagnon's at that stage yet. So
we'll see. Getting a shout out from Vegas. Let these guys win. That's what we're doing. Sean saying Dinos ride or die. The bold strategy, Sean. It's a bold strategy. Where are we here? Bold strategy facing the Bears. But hey, you do you, and enter in our KBO Pick'em contest, World Baseball Pick'em. And I think that's just about everything. Anything else? We got your cheat sheet here as well, Eric, any other final notes for the fans making their picks or making their lineups?
Yeah, check that out. Check out my NPB cheat sheet if you're playing some NPB daily fantasy too. It's exciting time in baseball these days with multiple leagues going on, and MLB news about to pick up. We're about to be incredibly busy, but wouldn't have it any other way.
July should be a lot of fun for sports fans. We'll be here, rotowire.com, providing you with all the latest information and news for all your picks or lineups needs that you need. That's just about it. RotoWire KBO, Eric_Halterman on Twitter. Both our handles there. And good luck tonight, Eric. Want to leave the fans with anything else?
Thanks for coming, everybody. Excited to watch some good baseball this weekend.